High in the mist-clad forests of southern China, the gibbon swings from branch to branch, an image that has inspired painters and poets for centuries. Today we'll explore 8 works across the Song, Yuan, and Ming dynasties to see how these long-limbed primates came to symbolize Taoist spontaneity, trickster spirit, and quiet contemplation. This January, I was blessed to receive funding from the Williams College Gaudino Fellowship to create a documentary in Taiwan. My friends and I, given we were already in Asia, decided to explore another country before returning for the start of the spring semester. On a small beach island off the western coast of Malaysia, we encountered the long-tailed macaque. This semester, studying the gibbon work of Yi Wanji, I was inspired to investigate these cute creatures and their Chinese paintings further. The first surviving written record of the gibbon emerges from the classic of poetry, which references now, between the 11th and 7th century BCE. At this time, scholars believe this to be specifically gibbons and not ordinary monkeys because of a reference to long arms. And gibbons differ from monkey species in both appearance and lifestyle. Most notably, they have bigger heads and lack tails. They're also known to live in small monogamous tribes and to swing hand over hand through trees, possibly due to their highly mobile shoulder joint and long arms. Later, in the Song dynasty, we saw the first painter of gibbons to reach fame. Yi Wanji, known for roaming nature to see deer and gibbons for his paintings, reached critical acclaim for his depictions and was allegedly brought in by Zhao Shu, the emperor of Song at the time, to paint the picture of 100 gibbons. Unfortunately, he died after painting only a few, but most of his works live on in the National Palace Museum of Taipei and also in the gibbon community. The portrayal of the gibbon has varied across Chinese regions and dynasties. In this variety, 3 main themes emerge. First, play and joyful spontaneity. Second, trickster and transcendence. And lastly, solitude and contemplation. We begin first with themes of play and joyful spontaneity, which are believed to originate in Taoist thought, Ziliang and Wu Wei. Ziliang describes a state of perfect spontaneity where the mind and world flow together, a form of naturalness that is desirable in its ability to live without interference. Wu Wei, a closely related thought, encourages acting in harmony with the Tao, that is, responding to each moment without necessitating specific outcomes or imposing ego on the world. Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, indicates ease and effort are inseparable, like water finding its path through yielding rather than pushing. This concept, rarely implemented by humans, evidently appeared to be invoked by gibbons swinging freely in Chinese forests. Their swift, unself-conscious movements suggest a creature utterly at home in its environment, each leap, hang, or stretch arising spontaneously rather than through calculation. In their freedom and ease, in this sense, gibbons offer an ideal lifestyle for humans in their connection with nature and the world. It is only fitting to begin this analysis with a work from Yi Wanji, the man who popularized the gibbon genre. This Song Dynasty hand scroll titled Monkeys Playing in Trees and on Cliffs depicts at least 25 monkeys engaging in various forest activities. Many swing from trees freely, visually evoking Wu Wei, while others rummage through trees and hold each other. This landscape is dynamic, with most of the gibbons in motion. Yuanji achieves this through an ink wash body for the gibbon, which gives the limbs an impossibly elastic and stretchy appearance. Their darker ink wash bodies also contrast with the wetter brushstroke used for the foliage and forest, which again highlights the movement of gibbons. Interestingly, while the artist attempts to evoke distance with details like the waterfall in the right background, their depiction of gibbons at various distances in the center of the scroll do not vary. That is, there's no attempt to create variation in scale or clarity as the gibbons move farther up the scroll to what should be the background. This creates a seemingly flat landscape in the center of the hand scroll, evoking level distance rather than deep distance. The artist is most successful at creating an atmosphere of freedom, and perhaps the unrealistic depiction of nature plays into this whimsical gibbon playground. Continuing on the theme of dynamic gibbons, we examine Gibbons at Play by Emperor's Wand. This piece depicts three gibbons, one holding onto a branch in the top right, and the other perched on a rock in the bottom left, cradling a baby orange gibbon. This image is strikingly similar to my inspiration footage, and closely resembles the manner that apes actually hold their babies, which is remarkable. Gibbons at Play is similar to monkeys playing in trees and on cliffs in its ability to suggest motion from the limbs and the extremities of the gibbons. For instance, the monkey on the left clutches the baby gibbon fiercely, indicated by the curled fingers around the baby gibbon's body, while the baby gibbon reaches for the top right gibbon. The top right gibbon's limbs curl against the branch in a position that seems virtually impossible for a human, indicating it is poised to spring across the river. This piece, like the bird and flower pieces of, as expected in Chinese painting, or even Kui Bai's magpie and hare, represents Wu Wei in the freedom of the constituents. On another note, while the bottom left gibbon appears to have an angry expression, the baby and top right gibbon reach for each other, indicating that this is indeed play. I really like how Emperor's Wand also utilizes lines in the negative space between the rocks to indicate the flow of water, again suggesting the flow of life and nature. And while gibbons are clearly the focus of this piece, the decorating strokes are notably perhaps the most ornate in this mini exposition. Emperor's Wand utilizes the hemp fiber stroke to give the rock's texture, as well as a variety of delicate strokes of varying wetnesses to create the leaves and shrubbery. This painting, like monkeys playing in trees and cliffs, is one of the few pieces that aims to create distance. That is, deep distance. These do not distract from the gibbons because of the emphasis of ink on their bodies, but it is certainly an aid as it transports the viewer to a forest landscape with frolicking gibbons. We examine last monkeys in a loquat tree, my personal favorite of these selections. Formerly attributed to Yi Wanji, this Song Dynasty piece features a familiar image, two monkeys in nature soul-gazing. Again, the monkeys' bodies are depicted with a black ink wash, leaving the detail to the drape of the body and the facial expression. The detail is sparse, but sufficient, with tree branches and scattered green foliage. This piece, like most others that follow, evokes level distance, or a single level plane without soaring heights or receding layers. This sparsely decorated piece with calmly positioned monkeys evokes Wu Wei in its tranquility and simplicity. The monkeys smirk at each other as one hangs carelessly from a branch. The artist depicts the monkeys as free. Like the water that yields, these monkeys have no aims or desires that will impede their fun. The next theme we will examine is trickster and transcendence. The monkey trickster of China has evolved through many iterations. Sun Wukong is the most famous example of this phenomenon, published in Wu Cheng'en's Journey into the West. In brief summary, Wukong masters Taoist disciplines and sets his sights on reaching heaven, storming into the imperial court and demanding the title of Jade Emperor. Instead, he is given the lowly title of Keeper of the Heavenly Horses, which prompts him to sneak into a garden and devour the peaches of immortality. Imbued with the power of these peaches, Wukong defeats Heaven's army in what has become arguably the sharpest critique of imperial China. In context, this satirical story aims to ridicule Ming-era officials. For instance, his self-appointment as Great Sage, equal to heaven, parodies the obsession with titles at this time. While Wukong is ambitious and certainly impulsive, as a master of Taoist disciplines and consumer of the peaches of immortality, he is also recognized as a transcendent figure with supernatural power. Wukong thus informs two sides of the same coin, trickster and transcendent. This story most likely informs the first and third work in this section, Leash Gibbon stealing fruit, and apes picking up fruits. The first trickster we examine appears in Leashed Gibbon Stealing Fruit, a hand scroll formerly attributed to Yi Wanji and known now to be from the much later Ming era. In this work, the gibbon is leashed to a horizontal wooden pole and stretches to reach for a smattering of fruit on the floor. A thin green leash ties the gibbon to the wooden pole with a bejeweled band, indicating the gibbon may be a royal pet. In style, there are familiar gibbon painting themes. There's a diluted black inkwash body with the most detail in the extremities and the facial expression. The hang scroll depicts level distance, and the wooden pole follows expectations of gibbon painting decorations of sparse tree branches. Further, the gibbon's focus expression as it reaches for the fruit ties to Wukong's thievery of the peaches of immortality. The next set of tricksters we examine are depicted in Gibbon's Raiding an Egret's Nest. This work is by an unknown artist from the Southern Song period in the late 12th century. With the anticipated level distance view, the piece shows three gibbons on a tree branch stealing baby egrets as a mother egret returns and screeches in terror. Before focusing on the gibbons, this piece has a beautiful depiction of nature in the expected tree branches and foliage. The artist uses a thicker, darker stroke to contour the branches that the gibbons and egret rest on, initially drawing the eye to the bottom left portion of the work. The surrounding thin branches with green foliage complement the constituents, creating a sense of true nature and realism. One gibbon points to the top right, where the airborne egret squawks, leading the eye and creating a flow of natural energy in the painting. In examining our main constituents, the gibbons, they vary in color but portray the same facial expression. Two black-haired gibbons sit higher than the orange gibbon, which reaches for the next baby egret victim and the next. Their expressions are not made completely clear with black outline like in other works, but their devious smirks can be felt. These tricksters and abductors follow the themes that could have informed gibbon paintings of this era. The last set of trickster heathens are portrayed in apes picking up fruits. Three gibbons perch along a diagonal branch with dark ink and color bodies set against an expanse of empty space that both grounds and elevates the composition through a level distance perspective. The delicacy of each brushstroke, seen in the soft feathers of their fur and the crisp outlines of reaching limbs, creates a vivid interplay of motion and stillness, as if we pause for a moment of spontaneous play. In the ape's half-curled lip and sly narrowed gaze, we glimpse a wink of trickery, an impish spark that transforms serene contemplation into knowing mischief. Each ape sports a devious facial expression, indicating their enjoyment of the fresh fruit. This piece from the 17th century embodies Sun Wukong's thievery of the peaches of immortality and its imperial court critique. Lastly, we will examine themes of solitude and contemplation, which are tied to the context of upheaval and war throughout the Song and Yuan dynasties. When the Jurchen armies overran northern China in 1127 and drove the Song court south, many scholar officials felt alienated and politically orphaned. Gibbon cries and poetry came to mirror the literati's own anguish when abandoned by the court, and Gibbon paintings more than doubled in this era. By depicting the gibbon as a noble, solitary creature, artists offered a visual refuge and companion for disaffected scholars who could contemplate their life in a compromised office under foreign overlords. This is illustrated in Mao Song's Monkey, the first work in this section. Later, after the Mongols established the Yuan in 1279, many literati again withdrew from official life, turning instead to painting and calligraphy as vehicles for personal expression and subtle protest. In this period, the lone gibbon became again an emblem of the recluse, a figure who, like the artist, chose spiritual integrity over worldly power, embodying quiet resilience amid the upheaval of foreign rule. We will examine this in the second piece in this section, Gibbons seated on a branch. In the appropriately titled Monkey, Mao Song paints a lone monkey holding itself, with a pensive look etched on its face. In one of the best depictions of a monkey, the piece pushes past realism as the meditative state resembles personification. The brown diluted inkwash body has no contours and is distinct from the red face and line details of facial expression. The lack of contour on the body imbues the monkey with an ethereal energy, as if it is reaching spiritual enlightenment. The scene is also notably empty, highlighting the monkey's immersion in his own world, similar to scholars contemplating their new life under a compromised office. For the last piece in this exhibition, we examine Gibbons seated on a branch. The work portrays a variety of ink washes to create the environment and the monkey, potentially indicating a literati painter. The monkey rests on a branch on the right side of the painting in this level distance work. It is perhaps reaching up to the sky or holding an object, but unfortunately this part of the painting was damaged and remains ambiguous. This environment is notably barren, with some indication of shrubs and leaves that we would expect for a given piece. This is a creation of visual solitude, in which Gibbon has no ornately decorated background in which to frolic. Created by an unidentified artist, this piece is from the beginning of the Yuan dynasty, a time when the Mongol takeover was fresh in the mind. The Gibbons' evocative images across the Song, Yuan, and Ming dynasties reveal its shifting symbolic resonance. Each reinterpretation reflects the social and political currents of its era, transforming a forest creature into a powerful artistic conduit for myth, philosophy, and critique. Ultimately, the Gibbons' enduring presence in Chinese painting underscores the interplay between a cute creature, human aspiration, and the ever-changing canvas of history.